I was a little late to this chapter of Honkai Impact 3rd, I apologize, but I finally played it 3 days ago, and I'm very conflicted on how I feel about it. I keep flip-flopping between calling this chapter mid and calling this chapter good, because the first half of this chapter was very good. I really liked some of the stuff it was doing, and I was ready to give this chapter my stamp of approval, but then the second half came along and it wasn't nearly as good. I think the second half would have been a lot better if it wasn't for one small issue. I say it's a small issue, and it is, but it plagued most of the second half and lessened my enjoyment of the chapter quite a bit. Let me explain. I'll talk about the first half later because I want to end this video on the positives. The second half starts with Yu Yun telling us about a hypothesis she has made where there will be a cataclysmic world-ending event that will destroy Defane happening 21 days from now. What I will say is that this plot is a lot more engaging than the plot in Chapter 10. Like I said, Chapter 10 was not my thing. We did nothing but goof off, play cards, and have fun, and it was a little boring. This is more my style. I like where this is going. This is a tense plotline. So how come it didn't feel like that at all? I could tell this chapter is meant to make you feel tense and suspenseful, wondering what would happen. I don't know if my expectations were too high or put in the wrong place, but it did not feel that way. The stakes did not translate to real life at all. I couldn't care about what was happening to any of the characters. Do I just have a heart made of stone? Am I a sociopath? Who knows? I just could care less about what was happening. It's really strange, too, because there have been many other times that there was a world-ending plotline and the stakes did translate to real life and it did feel tense. The entire final arc with Kevin, the Hersher of Corruption, the Hersher of Dominance, even the last arc with Layla felt tenser than this. And you might say all of those examples I just gave were from finale chapters of arcs, while this is only the second chapter of this new arc. I don't think that should be an excuse for how lackluster this felt. So I don't know what happened for this to fall completely flat, but I was disappointed. Another thing is that it was very easy to stop this disaster. All we did was close up a few rifts, talk to the people, tell them to evacuate, and that was it. It was very anticlimactic. Not even the boss managed to sway me. It was good, but solely because Healy and Corley's new battle suits are ridiculously fun. The actual boss just stood there until it died. There was a twist at the end when the timer hit 0, it reset, and they now only have 2 days to solve this new crisis, whatever that is. So that was unexpected. I liked that. It made me think that the crisis of this chapter was supposed to be anticlimactic and too easy to make this reveal more shocking, but if that was the case, why even have this chapter? I'd rather have a cool thing now than an underwhelming thing and then a cool thing 2 months later, you know? I'm done with complaining. Time to talk about what I enjoyed about this chapter. As I said, the first half was great. Yu Yun made her debut in this chapter. If you don't know who Yu Yun is, she's Dreamseeker's professor alongside Chenzu, who has been mentioned but never shown. At first I thought she was going to be another comic relief character, which was cool but nothing special. She does have some intricacies though. Her character arc is quite good and she's a lot better than I thought she would be. Her parents got swallowed in the sea of data. She didn't have anyone that cared for her. She was constantly shunned as though her opinion meant nothing, and as soon as she met Dreamseeker and other people who were willing to listen, she broke down because that was all she wanted. Speaking of which, Dreamseeker was amazing as well in this chapter. This chapter reminds me of chapters 8 and 9 where they focused on one person from the main trio, that being Healy and Corley. This was Dreamseeker's chapter, and out of the 3, this is the best one. We find out she's a person born from the Sea of Data. Dreamseeker was put into a stasis pod for 589 days to be observed and tested on, which was called the Career Adaptability Assessment. I guess I get it because the Sea of Data is an anomaly, it's dangerous, and you don't know what's coming out of there, but you couldn't find a more humane way to do it. Because of this, Dreamseeker ended up depressed. She failed all the tests, and she was going to spend more time in the stasis pod if it weren't for Yuyun. Yuyun got Dreamseeker out of that stasis pod, but because Dreamseeker already spent a year and a half in there, she still felt the need to prove herself worthy and was overworking herself down to the bone, so Yuyun helped her realize that she was enough as is. Dreamseeker and Yuyun are very heartwarming together. I especially liked when they kept switching between Oxia and Defane to show that the roles were reversed, with Yuyun comforting Dreamseeker with her depression and Dreamseeker comforting Yuyun with her issues. I did not like the second half, but the one thing I did like about it was when Yuyun gave her speech thanking everyone for putting up with her. Their character arcs didn't feel drawn out either, like Helia's or Corley's, which is the cherry on top. Dreamseeker and Yuyun were the best part of this chapter by far. Even though Chenzu has been in the story more, I'd say I already like Yuyun better. Chenzu always felt like a side character to me. She never had that much presence or backstory to her, but Yuyun had a whole arc. She has character presence, and that's what I like to see. There was a lot of lore in this chapter, but a lot of it was what I already talked about with Dreamseeker's origins. There was a cutscene in the beginning where we got to see a little bit of the career adaptability test I didn't say that right. There was a cutscene in the beginning where we got to see a little bit of the career adaptability test in action. When Dreamseeker first exited the pod, she blurted out, "For your sake, I must not fail." She clarifies a little, saying these words always slip out of her mouth without a second thought. The moment she says those words, she becomes a vessel with a certain obsession, and she doesn't know who that person is. Since all the context we have so far as this one sentence, I don't know who this is. My mind goes to Layla because of what she said at the end of Chapter 9 EX, but maybe it's someone different. Who knows? There was no lore about that picture that we saw at the end of Chapter 10, which was a little disappointing, but Senadina did talk briefly about Kiana, saying that Kiana is a greater goddess than her. Kiana brought her a savior from another world and did everything she could, whatever that means. The savior could be Vita, because that's the only other goddess we know, but I really have no clue. Do you guys see why I have mixed feelings about this chapter? One half was very good, and the other was very not. I would give this chapter a 6 out of 10. Pretty good, but could have been way better. What did you guys think? Comment down below if you agree or disagree with my takes. Like and subscribe if you want more lore breakdowns and reviews like this one, and I will see you next time.